Welcome back, everybody. UFC Fight Night 86, live from the Apex in Las Vegas, recently finished. Jack Hermanson and Joseph Pfeiffer for the main event. We've gathered here again to quickly recap the fights, to see how our beloved handicappers did, do a bit of reordering if it's necessary, and then we're going to see how we did with the B.L.A.B.S system. And if you watched the last video I did, you know, after a couple strong weeks to start, I'm a little bit salty with the system. So look forward to some changes coming soon. Let's get into the fights. First up was Daniel Marcos and Ari Quilon. Anybody that watched knows what a joke this fight was. Ended up as a no contest, a great way to start off the evening. Marcos was clearly winning through two or almost through two. The groin shot, and you never know what happens. He could have had a tear or something like that, I guess. It wasn't even close to being above average range for pain or for impact. Yet we all did the routine, sitting and staring at them for minutes while they decide whether they're going to fight again or they're going to take the easy out. And shockingly, many take the easy out. I'm no expert, but you can't tell me there's not a way between the three judges ringside, the ref inside the cage, and the ringside doctor for one or some combination of them or all of them to decide whether someone can go on or not. If it's halfway through the fight or more, then there's going to be a decision, not a no contest. And if you can't go on and everyone else deems that you should be able to go on, you forfeit. We need forfeit. And if it turns out that you were medically compromised, according to a doctor at some point, then we erase the forfeit from your record. But we're not going to punish the other guy for your decision to not continue, especially when it was inadvertent. If it's a straightaway blast to the nuts, yeah, I can see. And even if you look at like the Aljamain Sterling thing, as much as I couldn't stand his little acting performance and how cringe it was, he should have never been put in that position. If he took a knee to the head while downed, that should be it. The other guy should be disqualified if that's the rule. And then we have an answer that at least everyone can live with. It shouldn't be up to the fighter. It's not fair for them. And it's not fair to the other fighter. It's not fair to the fans. Figure this out, UFC. Figure it out. So the actual first fight turned out to be Hyder Emil against late replacement Fernie Garcia. He was clearly overmatched, but did the UFC a favor by taking the fight, and he was trying. He was getting in some good punches. He just was out-volumed like 3-1 and handled pretty much the whole way. Ended with a standing KO or TKO about midway into the second round. Good night for Emil. Not sure what this means for Garcia. He's kind of had one foot out the door for a little bit here, but he did help him out, so maybe he'll get another contest before they make the final decision on him. We'll have to see. But good night for Emil. See what they do next with him. Light heavyweights Zach Pauga and Bogdan Guskov were next up. Guskov was the slight underdog, but that didn't fool our guys who picked him with a majority. As we'll see later, that triggered a bet for us, which worked out nicely. This one was over pretty quick as Guskov finished Pauga with a KO at about 3:30 into the first round. This performance earned him a Performance of the Night bonus, $50K, and yeah, he looked good. We had an ending moment that reminded me of Josh Emmett standing over Bryce Mitchell, letting out the primal scream. Kind of the same final pose from Guskov over Pauga, too. So this was the domination. Don't know what it means for Pauga. He's probably on his way out. Just never really got going. Next up, 4 straight fights with decision endings. The first of them was Jeremiah Wells taking on Max Griffin. Griffin got the upset with a split decision victory. Seemed like there was lots of nothing going on and then bursts of intensity. Wells was throwing out some pretty sick spins and swinging bombs. I thought it was his to lose, but Griffin kept coming and ended up doing more. This was another dog victory that my guys sniffed out. Thank you much. Maybe I'm not so down on the system. We'll have to wait till that section to see how we did before making any rash judgments. The last thing to be noted is the horrendously low amount of significant or total strikes, thrown. 79 between the two of them for a full 15-minute contest is not good. Devin Clark lost the next fight to Marcin Prochnio, despite being the 2-1 favorite. Prochnio was more active, doubling the total strikes and significant strikes about of Devin Clark. Showcased nice kicks at all levels and ended up with the unanimous decision, 30-27s across the board. I realize I've been calling him Prochnio when the pronunciation is Prochnio, and I'm part Polish, apparently the brain matter part. Prochnio for the win. Next up, we had the only ladies' fight of the night between Loma Lobume and Bruna Brazil. Loma was favored and showed why. Doubled the significant strikes of Brazil. Kicks were looking great. She kicks at all levels, even though she's short, manages to get in there against her opponent. And she was happy to play out a measured pace, waiting for Brazil to do something to attack. She never did, and it was an easy and boring unanimous decision. I'm not sure if Brazil had a game plan, or it certainly didn't look like it. She had the range advantage, obviously, with height and reach, but never seemed to try to utilize it. She should have been popping Loma and moving back, making her miss all her shots and still connecting, but there was almost no effort. Up the card we go. Next fight, Balaji Oki and Timmy Kawamba. Oki had the better of it. He had twice as many significant strikes as Kawamba. I felt like he could have done more not to get a split decision. He spent a little bit too much time trying to be slick, but he looked good. He had a strong jab, and W is a W. This one was crazy. Carlos Prates was a 2.5-1 favorite, taking on Trevin Giles, and Trevin just was running the show the entire fight. It went until almost the end of the second round, when out of nowhere, Carlos Prates pulled a rabbit out of his hat with a dart right to the chin of Giles and dropped him, just pulling a victory out of the jaws of defeat. It was really something to see, and it earned him a performance of the night. Basically one punch. Yeah, pretty spectacular. Middleweight Rodolfo Vieira was a -125 favorite on Sunday when these picks were made. Not much happened strikes-wise in this one, about 15 significant strikes, but it only went to the end of the first round where Vieira wrapped up the arm triangle submission. Nice win. Michael Johnson kind of did his thing in the next fight. He was up against Darius Flowers. Michael Johnson always seems to bring it as far as effort. He's hard to bet on because his record, he has so many losses. But he's had big fights, and he seems to handle the ones he should handle. Nothing different here. I like Darius Flowers' kicks, looking real nice. But ultimately, it was Michael Johnson, unanimous decision, 30-27s all the way down. Next up was Brad Tavares and Gregory Robocop Rodriguez. Tavares hung in there with him. They were both banging, but Robocop's shots are just so powerful. He doesn't care if you turtle up, cover your head. He just knocks whatever he can hit and jars your whole body anyway. So unless you're slipping the punches, you're not defending them. Finally caught up to Brad in the third round, where he got the TKO stoppage against him. Gregory Rodriguez looked strong. Next was the featured fight of the night between Robert Brychek and Ihor Potieria. Interestingly enough, I skipped this fight in my last video. Let me just say, as a public service announcement, if I'm one of the chaperones on your kid's trip to Washington, D.C., maybe you don't sign that permission slip. Or if I'm the guide on your scuba trip, probably be best to be not the last ones back to the boat, or there might not be a boat there for you. Get what I'm saying?
Daniel, where's the boat?
This was a good fight. Both these guys hit hard. Brychek is really fast with his punches. He just was a bit off or a step behind a little bit, and Ihor found his groove in the second round and couldn't be stopped. It was kind of up to Brychek to do something in the third to really regain his footing, and just didn't happen. So Ihor with the unanimous decision. Does Ihor sound like an online escort service to anyone else? I wonder if that domain name is open. Let's move on. The co-main event was really interesting between Dan Ige and Andre Touchy-Feely. Still my vote for the best nickname in business. Apparently they trained together and sparred together and kind of felt awkward about fighting each other. But business is business. Dan kind of telegraphed that he thought Feely might not know what he's in for. Sparring isn't the same thing as fighting, and he showed him that pretty quick. 2:43 of the first round, he just dropped him like a rock, gave him one follow-up shot for good measure, and gave Feely a lesson he'll never forget. Dan Ige, pretty impressive. And our last $50,000 performance of the night winner, which is appropriate. Time now for the main event. Joe Pyfer, Jack Hermanson. This was supposed to be a coming out party for Joe Pyfer, beating Jack Hermanson, a ranked opponent, and launching himself into the upper levels of the division. And that looked like that was just what was happening in the beginning. Pyfer hits hard. He's very strong. His left hook is nuts. And I think he had Hermanson on the ropes multiple times in the first round. Perhaps could have finished him, but didn't. And I don't know if he kind of got into his own head after that a little bit. So you could say he might have got ahead of himself and then been surprised at how hard the task was. But again, he looked strong and he was in there just pounding away at Jack. I don't know how he survived that, but Jack fought really smart. Once he got through the first round, which just amazed me, he really started to find his rhythm, and Pyfer just fell off. I don't know if it's a combination of gas tank and just bewilderment or what, but rounds 3, 4, and 5 were clearly Hermanson's, and that's what the judges saw too. He had 188 total strikes, almost twice as many as Pyfer, although every single one of Pyfer's strikes are significant, so a little bit of a contrast, but I can't decide if we saw a fraud check or we saw him just not quite get it done early, and then an extra motivated Hermanson who, after more than a year off, came in pretty on the nose. So good for him, and we'll see Pyfer again in a fight, I'm sure, but the shine is off. All right, 14 fights down. Let's get to the picks and see how everyone did. Time to tally up and see what the new totals are. Well, we've got some interesting results. All the guys had winning records, which we're always looking for. But of course, which fights at which price make all the difference. Let's see how it all shook out. We'll start with MMA experts in 5th place, and we'll work our way up. AJ went 7-6, improving his overall record to 25-23, a 52% win rate. He did lose a little bit more ground, going down another $195.99 for a new total of minus 888.05. Next up is Angelo over at We Want Picks. He went 8-5 to improve his overall record to 28-20, a 58% winning percentage. Despite the 8-5, he did sink a little bit more, losing $43.99 for a new total of minus $417.58. AJ and Angelo each managed to snipe out a dog, but there were 5 this week. So to not grab 2, maybe 3 is leaving a lot of money on the table, depending on how the other guys do, of course. Next up in 3rd place is Brady over at DFS by the Numbers. He had an incredible week, going 10 for 3. He missed on Hermanson and Potieria, as did everyone. His only other miss, Procneo, a sizable underdog. He aced the rest. So he improves to 30-18 overall for a record 63% winning percentage. He adds $368.43 to his total, bringing him out of the negative into the positive to the tune of $128.35. He's on the move, people. mma-guru has had another strong week, 2 in a row. He went 9-4. Snagging Guskov and Procneo along the way. Overall record now 30-18 for a 63% winning percentage, just like DFS by the Numbers. Guru is another that brought himself out of the negative into the positive this week for a new total of 94-97. Last but certainly not least is our early front runner, Duffy over at Sherdog. Another strong showing this week with an 8-5 record to improve to 31-17, best overall record in the contest so far. Although Guru and DFS by the Numbers are hot on your heels. Your 31-17 translates into a 65% winning percentage. Pretty impressive. But the way it worked out with the ones that you won and the ones that you lost, you kind of held steady and gained $13.61 to go from $129.82 to $143.43. Now that we know how our guys did, how did our B.L.A.B.S do? For those of us new here, which is all of us, the B.L.A.B.S system is the betting leaderboard's auto bet system. Hopefully it blabbed us some winners. Let's find out. We'll start from the top as usual with rule number 1. So rule 1 was out of control this week, yielding 7 fighters. 6 if you don't count Marcos, who was the unfortunate recipient of that no contest bullshit. Yeah, so that leaves us with 6 here. We've got Haider Emil, we've got Loma Lukbume, we've got Carlos Prates, Robert Brychek, Dan Ige, and last but not least, Joe Pfeiffer. And the results are, looks like we won with 4 out of 6, which isn't bad. Brychek was a disappointment, and Pfeiffer, gosh, maybe did he let one slip away? Is he not that good? Either way, it's a loss for us. And that's the problem with this section. Even if you win 4 out of 6, if you're winning favorites, you're only picking up like 30 to 80 bucks most of the time versus a loss which costs you 100 bucks every single time. So we're still going to take a look at this rule under a microscope. Rule 2, 4 out of the 5 guys like a fighter, and the fighter is valued at a -199 or better for us. Then we take them, and this time it gave us Devin Clark, and yep, that's it, Devin Clark, and he lost. And finally, my favorite section, that's what we're all here for, is to get some plus money. And with 5 minds at work, I'm hoping when they come to majority conclusion on a dog that more times than not they're right and we're hitting that plus money. So this is my most exciting rule, and let's see what it has for us this week. There was just one underdog that was picked by a majority of our guys, and that was Max Griffin at a +142, and he won. Bully for us. So did we come out on top? Let's check it out. Let's see what our overall stats are, and then we'll get the hell out of here for this week. Pay-per-view coming up next weekend. Very excited. Thanks for checking out my videos, everybody. If you can, take a couple seconds, like, subscribe. Do me a tremendous favor. Appreciate it. Looks like this fight card, we went 5-3 with the B.L.A.B.S picks. That brings us to 17-12 overall. Dollars wise, we were up $90.88, almost a unit. Getting back on the right track anyways. We're sitting at a positive $220.70. A little over 2 units. I hate to be too harsh on B.L.A.B.S when it's producing a winning week, but I'm going to do some thinking on it, and there's going to be some adjustments probably coming up for next card. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, everybody.